Hello and welcome to this month's webinar on how to submit airspace data on Aloft Geo Portal. My name is Erica Cooley, Aloft Head of Community, and today I'm joined by Aloft's Customer Success, Kevin Teen, to demo how to add and publish your airspace data on Geo and answer some of the questions you may have about the process. As you likely already know, Geo is an online portal developed by Aloft for stadium managers, representatives from local, state, and parks and recreations, public safety organizations, and other authoritative and/or government-related agencies to self-manage and publish air and ground and safety-related advisory information to the Aloft Network. Once an account is verified, as yours has been in the Geo portal, you will be able to share your data on the Aloft network, including the Before You Fly platform, to the largest network of drone pilots in the country. So now I will hand it over to Kevin to walk you through our demo for today.
Hey everyone, thanks Erica. Kevin Teen with Aloft here. I am more on the customer success side of things, so helping out with demos and training like this. And today I wanted to help walk you through how to create and manage advisories in the Aloft Geo Portal. So to get started, you can access the website by going to geo.aloft.ai, and the page will look similar to what you're seeing on my screen here. You'll see the sign up link right there on the side, so you can sign up if you haven't already. As mentioned, you will need to go through a verification process and be approved. More details are provided during sign up if you're unsure whether or not GeoPortal was meant for you, but put simply, verification is limited to authoritative sources like Department of Transportation's, Department of Public Safety, even emergency management organizations, on down to even stadium managers and parks and wildlife resource officers as well, just as some examples. So once your account is set up and verified, you can begin publishing advisories to the Aloft ecosystem. Without being verified, you can still log in and interact with the Geo portal, but you won't be able to publish any of those advisories. So after logging in, you'll be presented with your profile, which can be edited to help keep your contact information up to date if any questions should arise, as well as a list of your advisories below. So let's take a quick look at some of the advisories in our list. First, this top one is an example of a state park we might want to provide more context for. In this case, you can see our advisory has already expired and is no longer published. So no one's actually going to see this advisory. However, if we go back to the list and take a look, we can see we do have a couple advisories that are showing active, and one of those is showing published as well. So here's an example of an active published advisory that would be visible to everyone across the Aloft ecosystem. Now, if we go back to our list, we can start a new advisory pretty easily just by using the Add Advisory button over here on the side. And with just some basic info, we can easily create a new advisory. I'll be using some sample data in these examples, so your advisories might look a little different. You should be listing you or the appropriate contact in here, as well as having all the relevant information and links provided for extra context. Once the contact information has been filled out, we can now get into the effective date range for this advisory. For this example, I'm going to make it a little dated, so I'm just going to put it for all of last month, just so we can see what effect that has on the advisory. Beyond the effective dates, we will get into the map and location boundaries. To make things easy, we do have some tools where you can draw right on the map here. So as an example, let's pull up our desired location. I'm going to zoom into our desired area. And then starting with some of the tools to give you some examples here, we could start with a circle, and then you can click and drag from center point out to your radius. let go, and we have a new airspace shape there. I could then delete this circle. We can also expand this map and make this larger, make it easier to work with here. We could then move on to our square tool, and this is a click and drag from corner to corner. Let go, and we have a new airspace shape here as well. Also, if I delete that, we do have our polygon tool, so we can get a little more creative with these shapes, and you can keep clicking on your desired points, and then lastly, click on your first point to close that shape, and we have a new polygon on our map as well. And you'll see it switches over to the hand icon, so I could even click this and move this around if needed. And you can also adjust any of those points or even add additional points if you need to. For this example though, we do have a file that we can upload. So aside from our drawing tools, you can also upload files like KML or GeoJSON, even zip, if it's a collection of those. And you can also paste GeoJSON directly into the website. But for this example, I'm going to upload a KML file that we have ready for us. I'm just going to grab that from my downloads. You'll see it pop up right on the map here. We get all the detail along with it. So I'm going to say, okay, that looks good. And then let's go ahead and save this advisory. So we have a new advisory that pop up on our list. We can see it is expired and it has not been published. So even if we were to publish this and say, yes, this is a real advisory that I want to push out across all our airspace maps, it still wouldn't populate because it would be outside those date ranges. But what we can do is we can edit that advisory. And instead of even messing with the dates here, you'll see there's a permanent advisory flag that we can mark. And so this is saying this is not going to expire. This will be a permanent advisory that will not drop off of our airspace maps. So we can save that. And now that it is during effective date range and published, you can see the status change on this advisory. Now, let's take a look at an example where we'd want to reuse an older advisory, like updating a stadium TFR for an upcoming game. So let's dive into our stadium example here that has been expired. You can see we are outside of those effective date ranges, but we have all the proper contact information already listed with our links and descriptions. We have the right shape on our map already there, and we just need to go in and update those effective dates. So let's say we have an upcoming event this weekend. We can change those dates, push it over, same thing for the end date, move that over, and then when we save, you'll see that status go from expired to pending because we've selected a future date. So when we cross that start time, this advisory will become active, and then once we pass the end time, it will move to expired. So now that we can create and edit our advisories, let's touch on a couple more tools that'll help you manage your advisory list here. As this list gets longer and longer, some of these tools like filtering will become a very useful way to hone in on particular advisory events. So as we get more on the list here, the first thing I'd point out is the density. We could squeeze these together and get a little bit more on our page here. And then we can also filter by different statuses. So I could look for maybe specific events in our list, or I could go back, clear that filter, and add a status and say only show me my active advisories. And that'll help us drill into specific advisories that we're looking for. But we can take a step back. Let's clear out those filters so we can see everything. And also to mention, you can turn columns on and off as needed. but this all fits on one page very nicely. And you can also export this out of the platform if you'd like to keep a spreadsheet of these advisories or you need to work with them outside of the platform. That's also available. And so that's a pretty quick walkthrough on working with the new Aloft Geo Portal platform. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Erica.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for that informative demo. Really a lot of great information there for our audience to understand granularly how to use the Geo portal to submit their airspace data and really how to work with the interface and all the different tools that are in there. We have some great questions from our audience that have been submitted beforehand, as well as some that have come in from the chat. So we will open up our live Q&A portion of the webinar now. Giving us a moment here. Hope everyone enjoyed the demo and found it informative. We do have a few questions. I'm gonna jump into probably one of our most received questions about the Geo portal from verified users, which is from the time of publishing an airspace advisory on Geo, how long will it take for that live advisory to appear on the Before You Fly map or on the air control platform? The answer is that the Geo portal processes new data 4 times a day. It's on Eastern time, so kind of like a morning time around 8:30, afternoon, early evening, and then a later evening time. So depending on the device, the user's device or browser, the map may cache. But caching may take an additional time to pull that new advisory information. So the expectation we like to share with users that are submitting data in Geo portal is that it could take about 4 to 6 hours for that data submission to become fully visible on all of the Aloft and Before You Fly applications. So it is a great practice to publish your airspace advisories as early as possible, as soon as you have that data available, for especially ones that have a start and end date. So if that start date is, kind of close to when you're submitting, just making sure you share that out for at least 4 to 6 hours before that start date so that the advisory will be live. A question that we received from one of the audience members is, can you set a zoom in scale limit on the data on Geo portal?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question, and hopefully everyone hears me. And I think I read this question 2 different ways. So the first is, can we set the zoom in when you pull up the map? So the default boundaries of the map, can it zoom into a particular state or county? That's not currently settable by the user through the interface. As far as when we're working with files and searching for locations, when you enter that information, it will automatically jump to and zoom in to the appropriate area. So you shouldn't have to mess with too much zoom there, but generally speaking, aside from the mouse scroll and the plus or minus, that's going to be your main zoom function when it comes to the Geo portal. And the last thing I'll close with on that is we are currently kind of in the works of rolling out some tile service servers where where people are looking to do some custom things with APIs and their own tools. So if this is more of a custom development question, we might be able to pick this up offline, but hopefully that touches a few different angles of that question.
And another question that we had was about on the interface, the flags column. So maybe I'll touch on it briefly, and then if Kevin, if you wanted to share your screen to show someone how to flag an advisory on Before You Fly. So the flags column is going to show you a counter of anyone who has placed a flag on the advisory that you submitted. So I want to say probably about a year and a half ago, we submitted or we created a feature that allows users on Before You Fly to flag an advisory if it appears that there's any inaccuracies to it. So yeah, I'll hand that over to Kevin to kind of walk you through the demo on the screen.
Yeah, so what I pulled up there is, as you were talking, just to kind of show both sides. So in the Geo portal, you have your list of the advisories showing, and that last column over here, flags. So this is showing us currently, nothing is being flagged. But the question of, what are these flags? Where do they come from? How do they get submitted? For that, I'm going to jump over to the Before You Fly platform. So that's just beforeyoufly.aloft.ai. This is a way you can access the airspace maps without necessarily having to log in to, say, GeoPortal or our air control platform. And so you will see the published advisories from GeoPortal in the FAA's Before You Fly platform here. And as you explore and you start to see these advisories, you'll see we have some other widgets over here. So we can, get some more information, or you can even upload, or excuse me, that's share. But you can click on this, and underneath, learning more about the advisory, and underneath that, you'll see we have the flag for review option. So maybe as a pilot, I'm familiar with the area, or a park ranger that's familiar with the area says, hey, this is wrong information. This is not, we don't allow drones here, or whatever the case might be. That can be flagged by the general public. And then, one flag isn't going to necessarily do anything, but it's to help us identify trends. So as advisories start to get flagged more and more, that would help kind of raise the flag, if you will, that we need to look into that advisory and just double check it for accuracy.
Yeah, and yeah, as Kevin stated, like one flag isn't a big deal, but if we're, seeing a lot coming in, it's also really good information for you as the, authoritative organization that's submitting this data, show that, maybe there's some confusion, maybe additional details that could be written in that description, or, other links that would help people understand, the nature of the advisory in a little more detail. Well, I think we're getting pretty close on time. Want to, make sure we stay within our window for this short webinar. I did want to mention this whole presentation has been recorded, and there'll be a link shared for the webinar in your email, so you can watch this back, watch Kevin's great demo just of how to use the platform. We did have one question from Jonathan that I personally don't know the answer to this. I don't know if maybe Kevin does, but if we don't, I'm sure we can connect with the team. But the question was, do you have any universities using the Geo platform?
Yeah, good question. Short answer is yes. We do have plenty of universities, community colleges, school programs, whether I'm trying not to name drop, but we work with some high school programs that are statewide. We work with some large county school districts. So yeah, we do work with some of the educational institutions out there. And yeah, would be happy to answer any other questions if you have something specific that you're looking for. But yeah, in the air control platform specifically, teachers getting oversight as to what their, pilots, their student pilots are doing. If they're not 107, they're flying underneath the teacher. So it's important to track all that activity. And then even as they progress through the classes, through the curriculum, they'll be able to upgrade to, okay, now here's your Part 107 workflow, and we kind of have worked together to kind of create this graduation, if you will, for those students. So yeah, we do work with plenty of those types of entities, and would be happy to dive deeper with you if needed.
Yeah, and on the Geo platform, I know that there are stadiums, so managers for specific stadiums that have sporting events, which have airspace advisories, meaning allowed to fly your drone during a stadium event. So it'd be kind of interesting, potentially if that could apply to university sporting events. I'm not sure 100% on that one, but could be an interesting area for university stadium managers to submit their data.
Absolutely.
yeah, just for education too, for drone pilots to know what's going on in the area. They're flying safely. So yeah, thank you, Jonathan, for that question. Thanks, Kevin, for your input on that. Well, I think with that, if there's any final questions, feel free to put them in. I'm going to just drop in the chat. If you have any questions that you would like to ask offline, Kevin is our support go-to. He is so knowledgeable about everything air control before you fly, and anything that you may run into, any issues, we're happy to support you on that. So I'll put that email in the chat. But with that, I really appreciate everyone's time today, and thank you, Kevin, for coming on and sharing your expertise and demoing GeoPortal for our audience.